Okay, Jordan.
Adrian.
So we've been going on now in this process for is it 5 months or 4 months?
I started in November.
Yeah.
November, December, January. So that's 3 months we've completed.
Yeah.
We're going into our 4th month.
Yeah.
So
it feels
good chunk of time.
It feels much longer though.
You think so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't you?
I don't know. I feel like every day goes by so quickly, but then when you look at it as a whole, from where we've started
Yeah.
to where we are now, we've accomplished quite a bit, and we've evolved a lot from the initial sketches or even just the initial interview questions. A lot's happened between now and then, so yeah, I guess it does feel like it's been longer. And I kind of feel like I've been at CompEdge for longer as well.
Yeah.
It feels so natural, and it feels like this is where I belong. So.
Yeah, because you've become a great part of the company now.
Oh, well, thank you. It's a really exciting company to be a part of, and you guys all make it so easy for people to integrate themselves into it, because you give them the freedom to create what they want, give them the freedom to be themselves, and so it's easy to kind of slip into the family member role, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's props to CompEdge.
Because how this started was that I was thinking, I think I told Jonas and Hege that, okay, we need to rebuild our brand identity now. Because we had then been in business for about a little over a year.
Mm-hmm.
It was last fall.
Mm-hmm.
And just like the greats say,
Yeah.
you need to, every brand needs caring and investment.
Yeah.
And even though it's really far-fetched to compare yourself to Apple, but we are doing something unique.
Mm.
Therefore, I was thinking, okay, we need to hire a graphic designer.
Mm.
And then from hiring a graphic designer, I was thinking about, okay, maybe we should just buy that service. But then it came to me that because we're such a small company, it doesn't make sense to just buy a new logo or just buy a new color scheme or just buy some cool fonts. And it makes more sense to onboard a person who can just formulate the stuff that we cannot explain.
Right.
And there you came.
Yeah. It did seem like a really good fit at the time, for sure. And it's funny because you and I, this was my first role as a graphic designer as well, and your first time hiring a graphic designer. So for both of us going into this situation, not really knowing what to expect, I think it's gone so well, and we've learned from the mistakes, and we've been able to pivot, and we've been very agile in this process. And I think that we've learned so much, and I don't even really consider this role just to be a graphic designer anymore.
No,
it's
I
a
agree.
brand strategist, you know, everything from interior to content production, and now we're thinking forward, thinking ahead of what this role can evolve into, and it seems like the possibilities are endless. So it's so exciting to think about my first day and to think about even our interviews.
Yeah.
You know, I had no clue.
That was fun.
Yeah, it really was. I had never gone through an interview process that I could say was enjoyable, you know, and that genuinely was. And the fact that we both were on the same page of this role can turn into whatever we want it to be. This is going to grow as the company grows and as we grow as individuals. And I really love that about this role and CompEdge in general, you know?
Yeah.
It seems like even though, yes, we have what we consider to be a final product of a brand identity, just because we are done doesn't mean it's going to stop evolving, you know? We are going to continuously nitpick at it, and it's going to evolve with us as time goes on. So
yeah.
Another thing I really like about the identity is that it is scalable, and it will change with us as we grow.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And in terms of that, one of the things that we quickly understood is that this process is so much more than just building a freaking logo.
Yeah.
And we were looking at some really different stuff in the beginning.
Yeah.
Like you were coming up with all these ideas, and And almost every idea I kind of liked, but I didn't understand why.
Yeah.
It was just, it looks so much better than the stupid C. But what do you feel was the most challenging and fun part? Let's say the first 3 weeks where everything was, not in a
So
structure.
new. Yeah. That might have been the challenge, the fact that there wasn't much structure. There wasn't an onboarding process that someone could sit me down and say, all right, this is how you do this, this is how you do that. You know, it was, I had to figure it out as I went, and you had to figure out me as this went on as well. You know, we were getting to know each other, we were getting to see how this process was going to go, and so kind of feeling each other out and feeling this process out was probably the first challenge we were faced with. And then once we kind of sat down and thought, okay, well, I need to fully understand who CompEdge is before we can move forward. I need to be able to dissect who CompEdge is in order to be able to build something that can represent CompEdge. So that gave us a good place to start. All right, we'll sit down, we'll have interviews with each other, we'll do mind mapping exercises, I'll interview everyone here in the company, and then the ball got rolling, don't you think? After those interviews and after those mind mapping sessions, we kind of felt like, all right, this has to represent everyone here.
Yeah.
So let's dive into the people here. Let's figure out who they are. Why are we here? What does our history say about the reason that we are here?
Yeah.
So that was really exciting, getting to learn about everybody and getting to learn their story and what is it that brings us all together here.
Yeah, and one of the, I think especially for me, one of the great things about the exercise that we did when you were interviewing people, coming from a completely different perspective, because you weren't part of the I would say the first group of people,
Right.
like 18 months ago.
Right.
So you got the chance to ask questions from an objective point of view, not subjective. And what I found was really somewhat touching or moving, was that a lot of the people here named the same stuff about the company, and that's one of the interesting things, I believe, when you're doing a work in terms of brand identity, is that even though the company that you're working with or working for does not have a visual identity, in order to create a formal brand identity, the company itself needs to have that core identity from the beginning anyways. Otherwise, you're just fumbling in the dark, or just coming up with...
Who are you at that point if you don't have something to identify with? And that's what I found really shocking about CompEdge, what you just said, is that for such a young company, you had a very concrete set of values and a corporate culture that everybody here could identify with. And they were telling me the same things over and over, essentially, because it was such a cohesive unit. CompEdge was such a cult. You all believed the same things. You all thought that you were here for the same reason, and you all felt that the positive things of CompEdge were the best part of them. Example, the freedom that everybody has here to truly create what they feel they are best at, and to explore new options and to grow as an individual, which then helps CompEdge grow, you know? Everybody mentioned that it was a very creative and innovative atmosphere. And so it was great to see that as a company that, like you said, was only 18 months old, right? You had a solid set of values, a solid foundation for me to come in and build off of, to learn what that foundation meant, what that foundation represented, and then build on top of that.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was great to see. I have a list, remember, of
I know.
all of the words that everyone said and how many times people said those words, and most of them were like said 6 times, said 7 times, you know.
And what was so interesting is when we did that open dag workshop.
Oh yeah.
When you did the same exercise, the mind mapping exercise with our attendees and our followers. Some of them are fans. Most of them said many of the same words, which means that we as a company had been really, really good at communicating what we're doing and why we're doing stuff, and probably for many of them, most interestingly, how we are doing stuff. Yeah. So I find that really, really fascinating that we managed to do that. But one of the, or probably the most impressive thing that you managed was that you, and I remember when we documented that in NRM, when you had formulated a draft of the storyline. You remember? Yeah. Yeah. Like, in order to do that, you need to be really, really sophisticated in the way you think, and you managed to build a story that every one of us could feel, even though you'd only been here for, what was it, 4 weeks? Or?
Yeah, it was after a short period of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, that goes to that it is attributed to the fact that you guys are great at, or I should say we are great at communicating our story, you know, with our community members, with the people here in the office. It's really impressive how well everyone actually grasps who CompEdge is. And it's funny because when I first moved here and I saw the job posting, I didn't necessarily know what CompEdge did at first, but I understood who you were at first because of the NRM series. I got what you were trying to represent, what you were trying to do. I didn't know how you made money, but I knew who you were, and I could tell what vibe you guys had in the office, and I could tell that it was a very go-getter kind of mentality here at CompEdge. Yeah. But so it was interesting to come in with a different perspective from a different culture and then dissect what was going on. That was a really beautiful moment that you, Hege, and I had in the meeting room after reading that.
Now, if we fast forward a couple of months, so you had to come up with all these great ideas. Some of them are not with us anymore.
Yeah, we won't bring those up. I hope those sketches die. Horrible.
But what did you learn about creating a commercial brand identity in this process?
It's so funny. I've never thought of this as a commercial process.
But because I think basically.
Sure, but I think if I thought of it in that terms, then maybe it wouldn't allow me to have, maybe my mind would then be put into a box and I wouldn't feel as free to create things as I do for CompEdge. Does that make sense? I don't think of CompEdge as a company. I think of it as a person.
Yeah.
Who has, characteristics, dresses a certain way, talks a certain way, has hobbies.
Yeah.
Relates to certain celebrities. It is a human. CompEdge is a human. And I think that's what makes CompEdge so personable.
Yeah.
That's what makes it so that our community members can connect with us because they recognize themselves in us. They don't think of us as a company. They think of us as a friend who goes through ups and downs and then showcases it on YouTube. It's a very transparent, very personable company, and that's what people can connect with. We have that saying, people don't fall in love with businesses, they fall in love with personalities. So the more we can think of CompEdge as a person and not a company, I think the more successful we will be. And that means staying up to date on current trends, what's happening in music, what's happening in pop culture, what's taking place around the world, current events, all of these things. If we can figure out how to incorporate them into our brand, that's going to make people actually want to engage with us.
Yeah.
I think.
Do you remember the kind of vibe that you gave in your case presentation when you for the CompEdge logo or identity?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I more specifically remembered the thumbnail that I had created, and it was...
You connected it to
news sources.
Yeah,
like
CNBC.
CNN. And,
CNN, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which, man, that was wrong.
Yeah, but now we have launched our new, so on the top level, our new identity. We are going into two stuff, which is the number 3 and also the hexagon.
Yeah.
Now, why?
We're going to get real philosophical here. We identify with the hexagon for multiple reasons, but mainly because it's a metaphor for creation. When atoms come together and form molecular bonds, they create the shape of a hexagon, which is called the skeletal formula. And that shape, that formula, is the building block for everything in the universe. So you couldn't create anything if you didn't have that formula, that shape, the hexagon. And we had talked a lot throughout this process about all of us being the individual puzzle pieces that come together to make CompEdge, and that throughout our journey we're going to add lots of puzzle pieces, we'll take some away, and it's going to continuously morph. And I loved the idea of the hexagon being able to represent that process of everlasting and changing morals and values and evolution, really.
Yeah.
At its essence, it is an eternal symbol for creation.
And the hexagon engineering design is also the best, like you said, mechanical structure in every building block whatsoever.
Yeah.
That's why the bees, when they form the honeycomb thing, that's why it's shaped in a hexagon form.
Yeah.
Also the spider web.
A dragonfly's eye has all of the cells that come together are shaped in a hexagon way so that there are no gaps. This shape is used when you need to use the least amount of materials to cover the most surface. So it makes it so that everything fits together perfectly. Everything's able to come together to make a cohesive, perfect unit, because it's, to get technical, 120 degrees from every surface point to the center, and it's it makes it so that things can structurally hold strong and be as close to perfect as it can possibly be.
Yeah.
And I liked the idea of that as well, of this being a structurally solid foundation for us to do whatever we set our mind to. You know, CompEdge is going to be able to achieve whatever it sets its mind to, and that was another great symbol for that. And also the planet Saturn, we found that it has a storm on the North Pole that is in the shape of a hexagon. And Saturn in mythology represents the keeper of time, which is exactly what we're doing here. We're capturing time. We're able to, you know, make a memory last forever, as long as YouTube is around, you know, because we're docu-marketing.
Yeah.
We're creating content that is able to tell a story even after CompEdge is in New York City or is in Tokyo. You know, it's an everlasting story.
And also we are now, I would say, it's a new rebirth of our story, where our new storyline is that we are in fact storytellers.
Yeah.
And you made a great point of course, not only using the hexagon as a symbol, but using 3 of them. And why 3?
Well, one thing that I really admire about you is everything that you do. Everything that we produce and put out into the universe, it has to have meaning. It has to, why? You know, if somebody's going to ask why, we need to be able to have an answer. And so we focused in on the number 3, because it represents the science of storytelling. So you have beginning, middle, and birth, life, death, past, present, future. It's the number 3 consistently. And we thought that was a beautiful representation of what we're trying to do here, which is tell beautiful stories. And we talked about the fact that, you know, we're not consultants or graphic designers or videographers, we're storytellers. At its essence, that is what we are all here to do, which is tell stories. And that came up quite often in the interviews as well, where everybody, you know, felt like our story deserved to be heard. And not only our story, but the story of our clients as well. So I think that in the future, our community members will see us really honing in on that identity of being a storyteller. And we're going to try and shine light on beautiful stories, not only ours, but throughout the past and maybe future stories as well in our community and communities around the world. Stories are something that bring us all together. So it's a beautiful thing.
And it's so important because what we're trying to do here is it's not to sell products or services, right?
Yeah.
We want to help brands, services, products, companies to tell stories that move other people or that falls into at least one of those categories where Eivind Landsverk, the director for TV Norge, who said, does this story make me mad, sad, or glad? And do I hate it or do I love it? And we talked about this earlier today, where if it doesn't fall, if a thing or a theme or a story doesn't fall into one of these categories, you will not remember it. And in order to, what we believe, in order to make great impact with your brand or your services, or if you want to have massive growth, you need to storytell, and you need to storytell in a way that other people remember you. And I remember the reason why our company is called CompEdge. It's short for Competitive Edge, which I don't think many people know, to be fair. But I remember when I used to work in Gartner, that was when I lived in London. I talked to my area manager, and he gave me this story about the best salesperson globally in Gartner. And I wanted to tap into, so what is it that he's doing that makes him so successful? Why is he always making it to Winner's Circle and to Eagles Club, and why does he have this success? And then he retold the story where this salesperson or this key account manager said that when I speak to my clients, I never tell them that I sell either products or services. I tell them that I offer them a competitive edge. And that's what the clients bought from him, not the services that Gartner provided, but they bought the competitive edge that he offered them. And I believe that's, again, I think it's a parallel to the story of the significant object story, the experiment, right? Where this perfect, or this the best salesperson in Gartner was best because he didn't sell the products or services. He offered them a competitive edge. That was his story. Now the other account executives, they sold Gartner services, and therefore they were average. And which we talked about earlier today, where stories can be so powerful commercially, where you can buy a product that costs about $1, right? And then if you give that product a story, you can sell it for 10, maybe 100 times more. And that was the experiment with the significant objects project, where a group of writers, I think it was 90 or 100 of them, bought 200 different products on eBay, and they spent about $200. 5 months later, they gave all the products a different story, listed them back on eBay, and they sold for $8,000, right?
Crazy.
And that was just through storytelling.
They bought the story.
Yeah, they bought the story. Not the stupid horse mask or
Right.
or whatever, right? They bought the story.
Whatever crap they didn't really need.
Yeah, and
they bought into the story.
And imagine the buyer of that product. Now, when a person comes to their house or whatever, and they ask, what is this? Now you have a story to tell.
Right. It's interesting about the person, the key account manager.
Yeah.
The phrase competitive edge, I think, is so powerful, and the fact that that's what he was pitching allowed whoever he was talking to imagine themselves with that competitive edge, not with the product, but with the competitive edge and what that would do for them. That's a nice spin on that. Very cool.
And you were talking about process now, so this has been I don't think people really understand how much thoughts and energy and time goes into creating.
Yeah.
Just what some people might look from the outside, a new logo. You've actually spent almost 4 months, like every day, late evenings, researching, sketching, pitching some great, some not so great ideas. And now we have come up with a plan to actually try and communicate this, which will be imprinted in our DNA as a company.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts in terms of that process, like the countless of hours gone into it?
Yeah. First, it's a responsibility that I did not take lightly whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's a responsibility I put a lot of pressure on myself to do well at, because it's not just a logo, it's not just a color scheme, it's not just a typography, it is the essence of a company. And that essence is what the public is going to either like, not like, bother paying attention to, not bother with at all.
Yeah.
You know, it was a daunting task at times, but the more I broke it down and the more I just focused on one thing at a time and brought people into the process with me and collaborated with people, that's when the energy started really allowing me to have fun with it, you know. And so I thank everybody in the office so much for participating with me, because I didn't do this alone, you know. I didn't spend these 4 months with blinders on and doing it all on my own. This was a team effort through and through. And I look back on it and I'm really proud of what we've come up with. Yeah. I'm really excited to start pushing this narrative to our community members and start, you know, getting them involved in it. Yeah. I cannot wait to launch and then ask people when they come to the next Open Dog, so like, what do you think of our new identity, or what do you think of the concept of us being storytellers? Like, share this with us, share your opinions with us, and let's see what we can come up with together, you know. And that's part of our story. That give and take with our community members has been a real puzzle piece to who CompEdge is, I think. Yeah. Don't you as well? Like, you've engaged with your community members a lot. You open the doors every month to people to come in to the office and share your expertise, share your highs and your lows with everyone. Yeah. That's quite rare, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was one of the, again, as we talked about earlier today, one of the articles that I wrote this weekend named Storytelling Always Wins. Yeah. Have you read the biography of Steve Jobs?
No.
No. Well, you should.
Pass it to me when you're done.
Yeah. In that book, he talks a lot about marketing and the finesse around marketing and how he thinks and a couple of years ago, I watched this clip of him standing in front of his company in 1997, I think. It was back when he came back after he got fired in the mid-80s. And one of the most important things that he did was that he really wanted Apple to build a a perfect brand, communicating which clients or which customers they wanted Apple to be for.
Right.
Kind of like what we say here when ikke sant? Du kan ikke være noe for alle, men alt for noen.
Right.
And one of the things that Steve Jobs said in his speech is that it's a complicated world. It's a really, really noisy world, even back then.
Yeah.
And we are not going to get a chance for people to remember much about us. So we need to be really, really clear about what we want them to know about us.
Right.
And that's something that I try and always think about when we are writing articles or when we are publishing podcasts or when we are producing NRM or whatever it is. Like, what do we want people to know about us? Because we can't tell them everything.
Right. And they won't remember everything.
No. And also when we are working with clients, like, this goes to the brand identity itself.
Yeah.
And so many clients, they just don't get that.
Yeah.
They want to do everything. They want to talk like this, and some of them want to talk like that. And then you have the CEO who has one vision, and then you have the CFO that has this vision, and it's not unified. But in order to be really, really great at storytelling, you need to be, like Steve Jobs said, really clear about what you want people to know about you. Because our brain works perfectly in a way that it just throws away every stupid idea, every nonsense, everything that you don't need to remember because it feels it's not important.
Right.
But anything that the brain thinks is important to you, it will remember. And in many cases, remember forever.
Right. And the key thing there is how do you make it so that what you produce is something that they remember, right?
Yeah.
And we've talked about this a lot, is whatever we tell them, it needs to be in the narrative of a story. It has to have a plot. It has to have some type of journey, or one of the 7 stories from Rob Schwartz. And the more that we can produce things in a storytelling manner, the more memorable it's going to be. They say that you're 22 times more likely to remember something when it's told in a narrative rather than facts alone. So, you know, whatever we want to communicate can change. The narrative will change, right? Whatever we're trying to communicate will change. But the underlining thing, the red line that brings it all together, needs to be that it's told in a story.
Yeah, the patterns.
Right. What are the patterns? Yeah. Exactly. And storytelling is natural for us as humans, right? When you hear someone say, okay, I have a story to tell you, you know, you have chemicals reacting inside of your brain that make it so that your body leans forward. You make eye contact, you're more engaged, you're ready to listen, to retain this information that they're about to tell you. And it dates back, 300,000 years, you know? So it's something that's natural for us. So why would we not use it in business? Why would we not use it to communicate in every aspect of our lives, you know? Not just with our mom and dad or our significant others. Like, let's use it in our communities and in our business as well. So
do you have so now we have revealed our new identity, and this is something that we don't take lightly.
Right.
Do you have a faen er det man kaller det? En spådom? Fortune? How do you forecast our identity to be known? How do you
the crystal ball, the fortune teller, is that what you're getting at?
Or let me rephrase that. What would you like to happen when we sum up 2019 in terms of our identity?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would like to have each and every one of our community members fully understand that we are storytellers, and not just in the sense of video production or podcast production or writing beautiful articles. I want to tell stories in every way, shape, and form, whether that's through music, art, poetry. I want to figure out a way that we can actually make money or have a business run on storytelling, regardless of what the medium is. And I think it would be amazing, and I am very driven by collaborating with people personally. So I think that the more we can collaborate with our community members, the more we can open our doors and get people engaged with what we're trying to do here, which is tell stories, the more successful we'll be, and or at least I hope. And again, we talk a lot about it's hard to put a number to what we're doing. It's hard to put to pitch something to a company and say, this is going to give you this many likes, or it's going to increase your profits this much, you're going to increase sales, whatever. It's really hard to put that into context here with what we're doing, but that's not what drives me. What drives me is learning about people's stories and connecting with people, and I think that's a very common thing here at CompEdge. We're very driven by sharing beautiful stories and connecting with people. So I hope that we can look back on 2019 and say, we did that. We've shared a beautiful journey that CompEdge has had, and we've learned about other people's journeys as well. And we've helped our clients share their beautiful stories as well.
So I have forecasted a lot of things during this process of building Norges Råeste Markedsbyrå. And I have it documented, so nobody can say I'm a liar. But one of the things that I do know is going to happen, I'm 100% sure, is that today, when people are calling us to understand more about CompEdge, if they are potential clients, let's say. So because we do want the identity and the brand to obviously evolve into something commercial. That's otherwise it wouldn't make sense. But what I do know is going to happen is that we will shift our conversations with our clients from they wanting to know what we can do in a video production, podcast production, marketing services, although we do that super good and we're really great at that, but it will shift to most likely one question when they call us, and that is, I have a story to tell, can you help us?
We're on the same page then.
That's exciting. So
imagine a client clicking into our services page on our website, and all it's saying is, have a story you want to tell? Call us. Like, we are in the business of telling stories. That's so exciting to me. I love the idea of that. And if you think of that in terms of us, striving to have an office in New York or San Francisco, wherever it may be, the beautiful thing about storytelling is it has no boundaries, it doesn't have borders. It's something that people in every culture can relate to. Everyone across the world can understand the concept of telling a story. So that means CompEdge has, the sky is the limit for us.
I agree.
Which is quite exciting. It's a cool thing we've done here.
I agree.
For sure.
Okay.